What's up, everyone? Welcome back to If Plants Could Talk. This is Garrett. I'm your host. This conversation took place on October 23rd, 2022, with my very special guest, Daniel Cleland. Daniel is the CEO of Soltara Healing Center. They offer ayahuasca retreats down in Costa Rica and Peru, with the most prominent facility being in Costa Rica, I believe. He was here promoting his new book, 12 Laws of the Jungle: How to Become a Lethal Entrepreneur, which releases on 10/25, just a couple days from now. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. He was a fantastic speaker and guest, full of wisdom and knowledge, and really told an inspiring story of coming from practically nothing at one point and really hitting a low rock bottom in life to completely turning around his life and operating multiple healing centers and becoming a truly successful entrepreneur. He's also in a heavy metal band called Savage Existence. He told me that it's not a band, it's a lifestyle, bro. But so if you want to check out his band, I will make sure to plug a link to all of his stuff, his Instagram, his websites, in the description of this episode. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you guys do too. I want to take a moment to tell you guys about my sponsors. If you scroll down into the description of this episode, you will find links to Mezcala Nursery, located in Long Beach, California; Green Touch Nursery, located in Bellflower, California. Big shout out to Plantly.io. You can type in Plantly.io into your web browser or download the free Plantly app on Android or iOS. And if you are interested in becoming a vendor, I have provided a link for you to do so down there in the description. Scroll down, click on the link. If you are interested in supplementing mushrooms, Real Mushrooms offers extracts in both powder and capsule form. There is a link in the description of this episode. If you use my link or type in If Plants Could Talk at checkout, you will get 10% off your first order and all future orders. If you want to learn more about these mushroom supplements and all their fantastic health benefits, there are articles in the description of this episode you can click on, or you can go back to my episode with Jeff Shilton. He's the founder of that company, and he outlines in great detail all the great things that these mushrooms bring. All right, here is Daniel. Daniel Cleland, welcome to If Plants Could Talk.
Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate you inviting me on your show. It's nice to see you. Nice to meet you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been doing some research and looking into your work, and I feel honored for you to be here. It's an absolute pleasure, man. And we have a lot of alignments in our path. And I was just actually listening right before we started to your episode. I can't remember the exact title, but you did a two-part solo cast about your personal story and what brought you. And I like how you cut it into pre-ayahuasca and post-ayahuasca. Love that. I only got through, say, 75% of part one, but there's so many alignments in our stories. I'm 32, so you got some years on me, but bullying in high school, and I had some problems with. I never heard you say addiction, but I heard you talk about drugs, and I had some problems with substance abuse and some serious problems with that. And plants and plant medicine has been a huge part of healing for me. So I know you have a few healing centers offering ayahuasca retreats, correct?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
We have one primary location in Costa Rica in Playa Blanca, Punta Arenas, and that's the one we started in. We opened in 2018, and we run that full time. We own the land.
Nice.
And then we have a couple of joint ventures that we're doing. Another one in Costa Rica that's a little further north on the Pacific coast.
Okay.
And we have also one down in Peru in the Amazon jungle, which is pretty much full-time Soltara. One of our facilitators purchased the land down there, and we are basically have just an exclusive contract for running Soltara retreats on their property. And then we're also we bought another property on the Pacific coast here in Costa Rica, in a up and coming beach town called Playa Coyote. and that will eventually, once that's developed, will replace the secondary location that we have here in Costa Rica. So we'll have two full-time locations in Costa Rica.
That's wonderful. And is it purely ayahuasca retreats? Are there any other medicines that they're
Yeah,
incorporating as well?
yeah. For now, we when we were working in the Amazon, before coming to Costa Rica, I lived in the Amazon, had a center down there, and we would we would practice with, I mean, if you're in like Iquitos, there's a lot of different medicines down there that are like in the zone. You've got your combo,
Yeah.
you've got Vilca, there's just different, there's Wachuma and stuff like that down in Peru. There's tobacco, there's all these different plants that you can do dietas with.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit easier to mix medicines when you're down there, which is, what we used to do. But when we were developing Soltara and we started talking to our advisors, they discouraged us from mixing and mashing medicines, and that, like we should just basically allow the Shipibo healers to kind of determine what
Right.
we do. And many of them, some of them are into some of them are fine with like people doing ayahuasca San Pedro retreats, and that's fairly common. Like I don't disagree with that. um but we chose to just go with ayahuasca, and that's what we're doing for now. However, as time goes on, you never know. We could be open to doing different things. I know a lot of people are interested in San Pedro.
Yeah.
We do have some experience with that, and we have a lot of connections to Guachimeros and people in the field. And then also a lot of people are interested in doing the bufo, the Sonoran Desert toad as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see what goes. We're looking at potentially a place in Colombia as well.
Wow.
So that might be an opportunity to branch out a little bit in a place where like all the medicines are legal and stuff like that. So
I would
yeah.
imagine you're limiting some risk by just like having a sole focus and really like honing that too, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's that. Yes. We are limiting some risk. Uh, that's not the primary objective, though. And I don't know if it's limiting risk or not. I mean, ayahuasca still carries plenty
Sure.
of risk to be serving ayahuasca in a location, because you really have to take care of people, make sure they don't hurt themselves
Sure.
have experiences that don't serve them. And so we have to, our risk limitation process is more on the intake process of
Sure.
really making clear kind of what our contraindications are at the beginning of the process. We have a conversation with every single person before they come.
Yeah.
We have a person who does that full time. So people have a really clear understanding, and some people just shouldn't be drinking ayahuasca.
Yeah.
But in terms of the choice to only do one medicine, yeah, that choice was not made based on risk limitation, but rather just staying true to the Shipibo tradition.
Yeah.
If we're going to be working with the Shipibo, we want to make sure that we're really honing in on their message and their medicine and their way of doing things,
Mhm.
at least for the time being.
No, I appreciate that because I looked closely into your website and was like just exploring the retreats that you offer, and I saw there's like multiple day options. What is it, 5, 9, and 12, something like that?
Yeah, we have different options per retreat center. So like in our Costa Rican centers, we do very few 5-day retreats and 7-day retreats, and maybe even very few 12-day retreats. Largely the most popular is the 7-day retreat.
Okay.
When we we just opened this Peru location in, I think, May of this year. So it's fairly new. And the facilitator, Vlad, who went there and built that place up and developed. It was actually an operational center called La Medicina before Vlad and his partners purchased it. Um, but so it was already built. There were some spruce ups that we needed to make, but Vlad really kind of suggested the programming, and he suggested down there that we would maybe focus on more long-term retreats, so like 9-day, 13-day stuff like that. However, what we found is people just really want a 7-day retreat.
Yeah.
So, like we're probably going to scale back on some of those longer ones too, because they don't fill up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, while I was looking at my original point that I forgot to mention was what you said with honoring, I don't want to mispronounce it, Shipipo
Yeah, cheap
tradition.
people. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of places in comparison that I've looked at before have perhaps a self-proclaimed healer that that trained down there and opened their own space. And I appreciate that you're actually utilizing like true tradition and honoring that culture without necessarily appropriating, because it's still you're facilitating for that culture to continue. And
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's always turned my stomach a little bit. And the people that are really connected to this work, for example, we have several facilitators that have put years of training, years of dieting, years of living in the jungle, years of really learning not only who the Shipibo are and how they serve medicine, but learning part of their language,
Mm,
learning how to sing Icaros in their language.
yeah.
And even those people, like when they're really dialed in, are still so humble that they won't like open a center and then try to replicate what the people are doing. They want their maestros to be doing the bulk of the work. That being said, they'll host small retreats every now and then, in a respectful way, and when we have ceremonies at Soltara, at times they will sing Icaros in the Maloka, and they will help in the
Beautiful.
ceremony itself, with people who are perhaps struggling with very strong experience. So yeah, I mean, you can follow the path and become a healer. It's a longer path than a lot of people may think, and it's just kind of always turned my stomach when you know people do a few ceremonies and then go out, claiming to be a healer and or a shaman, without doing the proper training. Like if you really want to get that credential, there's so much that goes into it,
Yeah.
which very few people are willing to do.
I would imagine that. Yeah, and there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing, and I've heard a lot of horror stories of people traveling to do this, trying to save money or something like that,
Less and
and
less,
ending up.
less and
Is it
less.
becoming less
It's
common?
getting safer, I think. Yeah, because
Good.
awareness is growing. Also, a lot of the kind of gnarly practitioners have been called out,
That's
have
great.
been outed. It was a lot more Wild West, 5-10 years ago.
Okay.
Um, and I'm sure some things still happen, but the conversations are being had about sexual impropriety or sexual abuse in ceremonial settings by shamans. People now understand that like it's not correct that a woman from US goes down to Peru and then becomes an apprentice with a Peruvian shaman and then starts sleeping with him, even if
Yeah.
she's attracted to him. Like that's inappropriate for that male shaman because there's a power imbalance there.
Yeah.
And there's potential kind of brujeria, like witchcrafty kind of things that can happen, or some type of like manipulation of the circumstances. And then anywhere that has any type of dangerous practices in place, they get called out fairly quickly. Or any type of place that has sexual abuse problems or
Sure.
anything like that. Like you don't last too long in this field of work if you don't operate with ethical standards. I can actually think of a couple places that have suffered greatly as of late due
Mhm.
to due to um, questionable ethics and practices. I mean, there's a Vice article about one place that came out where it's like, people coming together to try to make public their concerns. And Vice, it's ayahuasca is a hot topic, so Vice helped them out.
That's
And there's
great.
this big article that recently came out. Another place where um, it's not even the public, it's the rumors that go around
Sure.
that like in the medicine community, where especially with people who work in the medicine space, because it's a very small community.
Mhm.
And if you have a place where there's weird dynamics, or there's like weird hierarchies, or there's dishonesty, or anything like that, people just don't want to work there. And they have all the choices in the world, because this is such a strong field of work right now. So much demand. um so those places end up suffering because the word just gets around, and then
Yeah.
they're forced to correct course, or else they'll go under.
Yeah. Great. Now you've had a number of celebrities come to your facility, right? And I've seen all kinds of press releases I was looking at last night. I think I saw Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly did a retreat together there. I know Aubrey Marcus has gone. I'm a big follower of him.
Yeah. We've had a few big names in the past. Megan Kelly, Machine Gun Kelly, of course. There's Megan Fox, Machine Gun Kelly.
Uh-huh.
Um, yes, Aubrey's been here a few times. The last time he was here, he brought Aaron Rodgers and Jake
Wow.
Paul. So, Aaron Rodgers um, was pretty big on the news about that. Um, Jake Paul was a little more discreet. He still made it public, so I'm not like outing him for doing ayahuasca and something like that. But yeah, it was funny. He actually he was training hard the whole time. You know who Jake Paul is? The
I'm not
boxer,
okay.
YouTuber
Okay.
boxer. He fought Floyd Mayweather. He might end up fighting like Conor McGregor or Andrew Tate, but
Sweet.
he was kind of, I think he's promoting fights, and he was promoting a fight like the day we started the retreat. So he flew down in a private jet the day after, and he was there for the whole week, but he was training hard the whole time. So I have a gym at Soltara, and he actually trained so hard that he punched the punching bag right off the rip the straps right off the punching bag, just going nuts on it. So
Yeah.
he trained the whole time, because he has, he's a fighter, and he had to stay in shape and stuff. Um, and he brought his girlfriend Julie down. We've had other influential people that are in the medicine space. Dorian Yates, Dennis McKenna, Brian Rose have all come down. A lot of people who are more in the academic realm that
Sure.
probably like don't have as much public exposure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so little by little, we're not trying to make ourselves like the place for celebrities,
Sure.
but also we try to be accommodating, and work in a kind of chill and discreet manner.
Yeah.
And like if those other guys hadn't already mentioned in public that they'd been to drink ayahuasca with us, then I wouldn't have said anything. But
Yeah.
but they have. So um, but yeah, I mean, if we get like a request, like for example, Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox, their agent reached out to us. They booked them in for a retreat. we were not like fanning out when they were here, like
Didn't change
I
anything.
went in just for one day just to say hello, shake their hand. I, shook Machine Gun Kelly's hand, just said hello. And then Megan Fox was being facilitated at the time, but I got to at least see her there.
Yeah.
But yeah, they they felt totally chill here. And they were just in a regular group. Like they didn't ask for a private retreat or anything. They were just in a regular group, just a couple normal people. And they were treated just like anyone else. And then they flew straight from Soltara to LA so MGK could collect the Billboard #1 rock album chart.
Wow.
And do a big speech. It was either LA or New York, I can't remember. But he won best rock album. He just flew straight from our place to go collect
Right.
that album. And then they were on like late night TV talking about it, and Howard Stern and stuff
That's
like that.
incredible, man.
Yeah.
Well, it really speaks to the quality of care that you must be providing, for those type of people, especially to speak about it openly. And there's such a demand for it. Like you were saying, I would imagine, like, since Michael Pollan's been talking about it, and since it's become such a trending hot topic, it's like really like spiraling and growing. And it's a topic really near to, and dear to my heart. I participated in Rick Doblin's MDMA study. I was in a PTSD study, and it saved my life. It really changed my life. And ketamine therapy has also really helped. And I would love to come down. And the price point is you're not pricing out regular people either. When I was looking at the retreats, and I love that. So I'm hoping more and more people will be inspired to hear about that. And I would love to circle back to like you and a little bit about your background, and then kind of transition into this book too. Now you're kind of an obscure type of person that's in this world, coming from like you're in a hard metal band, right? Like a heavy metal band, right?
Yeah.
And and
We
you're
just
from
got
Canada.
back from tour with Sepultura.
Right. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I imagine you don't see a whole lot of heavy metal heads like in the ayahuasca community.
A few, a
Yeah,
few.
sets you apart.
But you know, it's kind of it's been an interesting journey for sure. Like, I got into ayahuasca in 2010 was when I had my first ceremony.
Okay.
So I've kind of had this arc of experience with the medicine, right? I mean, I got into the medicine. First off, I've been a heavy metal enthusiast since high school, right? Like my drummer in my band right now, who also is the chef at Soltara,
Wow.
he's my best buddy since like kindergarten. We grew
Cool.
up together. We were next door neighbors in Canada, right? And like we had a jam room in his parents' basement, and a couple of other buddies. Like we used to play in a metal band in high school. We loved it. And even after high school and college, me and my buddy Jesse lived together in London, Ontario. And we had another jam room in the basement there, and we used to like write songs and play music, and we loved it. But then life got in the way. Like we were early 20s, and we had to build careers and stuff like that. So I went my way, and he went his way. And throughout that kind of career building process, I suffered a bunch of setbacks. I was very I was not very successful at some things. I was pretty irresponsible, pretty immature. Had some psychological problems, like you said, so some issues with addictions or with overconsumption, and that all kind of culminated into a really dark point in my life when I was turning 30 years old, and I'd made a lot of mistakes, and that manifested into a physical consequence one night when I was living in Australia, working like some shitty door-to-door sales job, and got drunk one night and climbed a cliff and fell off, and dramatically injured my body, broke my femur and my pelvis, and ended up spending 40 days in the hospital there. And that was kind of like the low point in my life that spurred me to drink ayahuasca. And
Mm.
that was in 2010. Um, and so the reason, like, I didn't get into ayahuasca because I wanted to be like a spiritual healer. I
Yeah.
got into ayahuasca because I needed psychological help to
Yeah.
fix the problems in my life, right? And so I got into ayahuasca, and it dramatically helped me fix the problems in my life. It dramatically helped my psychology. And fortunately, I had the skill set because I had spent some time working in tourism in South America. I had the skill set to guide people into South America to drink ayahuasca. Now, I wasn't serving it.
Yeah.
I wasn't serving it, but I was subsidizing my own work with it by bringing small groups of people. I used to be a tour leader in South America, so I knew the territory, I knew the job.
Sure.
Um, and so for a couple of years, I subsidized my own work with the medicine when I was in the process of building myself up and building my life back together and stuff. And I was subsidizing that by taking small groups of people into the Amazon to work with different healers. Um, and part of building myself up was that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I wanted to be more self-sustaining. I wanted to be more independent. I was excited by the prospect of entrepreneurship, and the more I got into it, the more I learned about it, the more I wanted to do it. And I was also I was never happy in any other job that I ever had. I was always trying to find happiness by finding the perfect job, but I could never find it. And
Mm.
like I would last like a year in any given job, and then I'd be gone trying to find something else, and it was just not there. So I decided to create my happiness instead. Ayahuasca helped me do that, not only with helping to strengthen my mind and helping to get clear visions, but also it became the service that I provided.
Mm.
So, then in 2014, the business was doing well with the small group tours. And then I was down in Peru, and we were getting busier, and I needed some infrastructure. So I went out to a village in the middle of the Amazon, and had a like village meeting, and spoke to them in Spanish, and cut a deal with the village. And they let me like basically lease a plot of land on the riverfront to build a center. And the deal was, okay, we'll lease you this land for free, but you build a place, you bring people, and you give us jobs.
Wow.
And so that's what I did in 2014. That place is still operational today, albeit under a different brand, because I sold it in 2017 to come up to Costa Rica.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so then I built that place in 2014, spent a few years living in Peru and the Amazon, working down there, being amongst nature and all the other kind of chaos that happens down there, when it was the Wild West territory, a little bit dangerous, to be honest, and a little bit sketchy.
Sure.
But that's really where I earned my chops. And then working with the Shipibo all the time, really learning a Spanish to a super proficient degree. And then I sold that and moved up to Costa Rica. I was able to, because that was a successful operation, I was able to raise a lot of money to develop this. Like I had like 15 investors for this project in Soltara here in Costa Rica. Had to raise like millions of dollars.
Wow.
Because it's expensive here, the beachfront properties and everything like that, the construction, a lot more permitting and taxes and stuff like that. So then I built Soltara here, and that was 4 years ago, more than 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. And that's become very successful, and I've managed to really build a really desirable life for myself here in Costa Rica. Here's the view.
Nice.
So I've got my little jam room right here with my guitar and stuff.
Wow.
Practice guitar. So yeah, I mean, I've developed over the last 12 years, my journey with ayahuasca has really resulted in a life that I'm very happy with and very comfortable in. And we're still going, but at a more comfortable pace now. We're still growing, but it's not like so life or death like it was in the beginning.
Right.
I have low stress right now. I have a great girlfriend. I have great friendships. The business is doing great. Everybody in the company's happy. Everybody in the company's growing and being challenged and doing what they love. Everybody's in the right lane. You know, I just bought my first house at 40 years old here in Costa Rica, and I've got a beautiful dog, and I'm in a rock band that's touring the world, playing shows with some of the bands I listened to in high school.
Righteous.
So it's like that same motivation to drink ayahuasca doesn't exist anymore. And like I said, um, I didn't get into it to become like some kind of a spiritual healer, but like it's like ayahuasca worked for me.
Yeah.
It was with me this whole time, keeping my head in the game, keeping me strong, keeping me responsible, keeping me diligent, keeping the vision clear. Um, and so I don't drink a ton of medicine anymore.
Yeah. You don't have to.
Don't have to. Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, I think that speaks for the actual medicine itself, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were seeking that medicine, did it help you? What did it help you with? Did it help you deepen your connection with yourself? Did it help you deepen your connection with the spirit, with earth, and maybe like some of the messages that became more clear? And also, how did you integrate them and actually start applying them so that it didn't just be a profound experience with no follow-up, you know?
yeah, good questions. So in my very first ceremony, like, one of my primary issues was just toxic thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was having real problems with really negative thoughts, like
Yeah.
every single day. It was like I had these balls of garbage floating around in my head.
Yeah.
And and they were contaminating my thoughts, which, you are what you think, right?
Yeah.
So so that was manifesting in my life in troublesome ways, a lot of like self-sabotage, like low self-worth, self-hatred, self-loathing, self-contempt, whatever you want to call it. A lot of regret for um, perceived mistakes I had made in the past. Like I wasn't I wasn't in the position I wanted to be in. So I blame myself for mistakes I'd made in the past.
Sure.
And I didn't know at that time that that was just preparing me for a better future. Like the journey I walked gave me very unique experience that allowed me to create this amazing life that I have right now.
Yeah.
Right. But in the past, I was extremely regretful of decisions I had taken that led me down a path that didn't put me, like, when you're 30 years old and you're just there's a measuring stick like between you and all the people that you grew up with. And some people, they finished high school, they tried really hard in high school, they didn't go to parties, and then they went to a good university and they worked really hard and they didn't go to parties, and they got a good job and they're making 80 grand a year, 100 grand a year when they get out of university. By the time they're 30, they have a house, they're married, they got 2 kids, they got a nice car. And then, you know, then like, I was looking at myself like, okay, I did the opposite of all those things. And I'm turning 30. I have no money. I have no education. I have no career. I have no girlfriend, no wife, no car, no credit. Like it was just a fucking loser. But what I got instead of those things was a ton of experience, which I was then able to apply to building a business that required a very specific set of skills that very few people have, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I didn't know that back then, though, and so the very first ayahuasca ceremony, uh, it was like a huge exercise in self forgiveness. It was like I actually saw like myself, like I was looking from
Mm-hmm.
from outside in, like I could see myself from a third person perspective. And I just felt this like sense of love and forgiveness. And I could see all my flaws, all the things that I hated about myself, like obviously right there. And I just felt like this sense of love and forgiveness, and like you're not a bad guy. Like, don't be so hard on yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And so that really, it was like a hard left turn. And in that sense, you know, all the self-sabotage, the things like, even though I wanted something, I wouldn't let myself have it, that began to dissipate very quickly. I also felt like a lot of love. I also experienced like the deepest sense of profundity I'd ever experienced. I also experienced a deep level of agony. Just the intensity of the experience was so strong, and so humbling. Like, I vomited all over myself and all over like the floor on the inside of the ceremony space, because I was just so inebriated I couldn't even see to get my bucket, my purge bucket. I ended up vomiting like hands and knees in a puddle of vomit and mucus, like the most humbling experience. Um, and it just completely woke me up and it shook me. It was like, wow. Um, it was just like this massive stress test,
Yeah.
and gave me so much clarity. And then, you know, I kind of walked away from it thinking like, if I can go through that, I can do anything. And then it was like, and then at the same time, I just became so enthralled with ayahuasca. Like the power of the medicine was just so glaringly obvious to me that I just wanted to do more of it. Like, I just wanted to keep walking that path.
Yeah.
So, you know, it kind of gave me a direction in a way. Like, it healed some of the psychological things I was carrying around that were contaminating my life. And then it also gave me a direction to walk. And I started talking about it publicly. I started blogging for the first time.
Cool.
You know, it scared the shit out of a lot of people, because in 2010, ayahuasca was not on Netflix.
Right.
You know, it was like this crazy thing in the jungle that makes you vomit and, you know, freak out and have psychedelic vision. So, you know, my family, my immediate family were like, bro, what are you doing? This is scary. I'm worried about you.
Yeah.
And I was just indiscriminately posting, sending like descriptions out to my email lists, and people were like, well, this guy's going crazy down in the jungle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so, but then it opened so much up for me, because then, you know, 6 months later, I was down in Peru for a month doing a dieta and blogging about it. You know, I got a volunteer position to go down and blog about it. And so I started writing and started figuring out how to make blogs on the internet, which then led to 6 months after that, going down to Brazil to live in Manaus to teach English and then work with the Santo Daime and União do Vegetal in Brazil, right? And I was blogging about that, and like I read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. So then I started a website, and then I, you know, started slowly piece by piece building my ideas, and, you know, I started coming up with business plans and stuff like that. That didn't quite work out so well, but you know, it just got me on this path, and that just ended up with me, you know, starting my own tour company the next year, like 6 months after the Brazil trip. And you know, I started with friends and family, leading trips, building my business bit by bit, managing my own website and WordPress, and, you know, writing blogs and emails, and, you know, figured out how to use payment processors, and figured out how to set up a company and all this kind of stuff. And it was just bit by bit. And ayahuasca was a service that allowed me to just go from nobody to a one-man show, to a 2-person show, to a 4-person show, to a 40-person show. And you know, really evolve and grow as an entrepreneur to where I am now, where I have other people who do all that stuff. And all I really have to do is make decisions and pay attention to all the indicators everywhere to make sure the company's going in a positive direction.
Yeah.
But I'm not dealing with payment processor issues. I'm not leading tours anymore. Um, I'm just basically the chairman of an organization that's doing very well and has dozens of employees.
That's wonderful, man. And it sounds like you said it gave you direction, but ultimately it's up to the individual. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to like follow that path and to put in all that work, because it
Absolutely.
could have given you that, could have opened that door for you,
Right.
but it was up to you to actually make that decision and continue to face resistance. Because I heard you saying people were criticizing you and thinking you're going crazy. And I faced a little bit of that myself, actually, and ended up making my page private because of it, because I'm just yelling at the top of the mountain, MDMA therapy is going to save adolescents' lives. We should be giving it to adolescents to prevent suicides, those kinds of things. And did you know at the time that it would be such a profound, like, evangelistic service to others, or were you just like merely expressing yourself when you wrote these blogs? Could you have ever imagined that it was
I
gonna
was
turn into
100%
this?
convinced. I
Yeah.
was 100% sold. Every single time I had an experience was like, wow. And I was so convinced. I mean, at the beginning, I was evangelizing the medicine, like, everybody needs to do this kind of thing. I don't
Yeah.
believe that anymore.
Right.
And I don't try to push it on people anymore. But I was in the very beginning
Hmm.
because I was so convinced. Like,
Hmm.
I was so, so, so into it. Um, and and I also knew, like, I intuited that this thing was about to blow up as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so functional and so powerful and so necessary for me, and it helped me so much. And I
Hmm.
just knew there were so many people that it could help around the
Yeah.
world.
True.
Um, and it was just, that door was just beginning to open. So I knew it was going to blow up, and I sensed, even though the people around me um were like, oh, this, you're never going to make any money doing
Yeah.
this, this is crazy, what are you thinking, this, you can't do this is nothing.
Yeah.
But they hadn't experienced the ayahuasca, right?
Hmm.
They didn't know how good it was,
Yeah.
and that just the only reason everybody's not doing it is because everybody doesn't know what it is.
Yeah. Access and
so so yeah, I had to face some resistance there. And then, of course, um my dad is an important guy in my life. He's my business partner now, right? We
hmm
work together regularly. But in the beginning, he was very he'd always been against me smoking weed. Like, he's very anti-drugs, very Ronald Reagan era,
yeah.
1970s culture wars, and he was on the jock side, and all of his friends very conservative as well. They drink some beers and have a good time and go play golf or whatever, and joke around and swear and everything, but
Sure.
none of the guys are doing drugs, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a certain element of, like, shame, I think he felt as well, in front of all of his peers who I was also sharing my stories with.
Yeah.
And he was like, they're like, Charlie, what is your son doing down there? It's a little scary. And my dad would be like, oh, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know. I don't control him, or whatever.
Yeah.
But then over time, the proof just came out, from multiple outlets. My life, like, they all saw how much my life changed over the
Yeah.
years. They watched me become a completely different person,
Yeah.
right? So, in a good way.
Yeah.
And so they were intrigued by that. And then also, bit by bit, more media began to come out as well, in respectable news outlets. David
Right.
Suzuki talked about it. There was Vice News or whatever, these different outlets that perhaps are Toronto Star, different outlets that these guys would have been paying attention to, or would have at least respected enough to take a serious look, um, began to emerge. And then and then I kept my nose to the grindstone, and the business started to show results. And then I became a self-sustaining entrepreneur in 2013. Like, 2013 was the last time I ever worked for anybody else.
Wow.
So that's almost, that's like, that's almost 10 years of full-time self-sustaining entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And so, the efficacy and the results just became undeniable.
Right.
And then to your other point, I think you were kind of alluding to integration there, and that's very important to acknowledge that, when you have these profound medicine experiences, you take steps in real life to walk the path. And I think that's a trap that some people can fall in,
Mm-hmm.
is going and having the profound experience, but then
One and
not
done.
putting as much effort into implementation and
Yeah.
integration. And then it's like, well, in 6 months, I need another experience. Six
Right.
months, I need another experience. There's a certain element of walking the path and of diving into the journey. But, you really also want to be putting the lessons and the insights and the benefits into action in real life too.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I'd like to transition into your book, but I have a question just out of curiosity. How did you sustain motivation during that time? Are you the type of person that I'm the type of person that when there's naysayers or negativity
Oh
or,
yeah.
or hatred, I feed off of it and it
Oh,
motivates me to
bro, you
double
have no
down.
idea.
Yeah, I see
That's some
that.
of the best motivation. I
Right?
mean, like just the motivation to prove people wrong or to prove yourself right, or
Hmm.
or like, and I'm feeling the same way right now with our band, right? Because
Hmm.
get the same shit, starting a new thing. It's like, how hard it is. People like, how hard it is to become
Yeah.
a famous international act.
Right.
You're never going to do it. You're just wasting money or whatever. Or like, people don't pay attention, or you only have so many followers right now or whatever. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, you wait, I'll
Yeah.
get there, and you're
Just
going to eat your
watch.
words. So um that's a crazy motivator, man.
It
I mean,
is.
and I think, like, bullying, fat shaming and bullying made me learn how to get fit,
Yeah.
and I got fit, and I've been fit since.
Hmm.
um Being judged based on my economic performance when I was turning 30 and my like achievements in life, um motivated me to go and crush it,
Yeah.
right? People doubting my choice to get involved with ayahuasca made me want to go and crush it.
Hmm.
People doubting that we can do anything serious with our band makes me want to go and crush it. So, I think in society it's highly underrated, the motivation that you get from being held to account.
Yeah.
um and also, from people doubting and questioning you, and calling you out, and even a little bit of bullying can be used in a way to actually improve people, um, if it's just treated in a different way. But trying to like remove all of that from society and just make everyone feel just perfect for
Yeah.
just who they are and the way they are doesn't inspire as much change, I think, as calling people out, and being honest, and having a little of doubt. um
Yeah.
yeah, you get
Well,
it.
yeah, all that adversity that you spoke to earlier in your story that uniquely qualified you to ultimately open this place, that some of that is bullying and those other things, but also the financial struggle, all that hardship really is what made you such a qualified person to be doing what you're doing. So I love that. And I think it's really motivating. And that's the type of stories that I love to listen to, are like the comebacks and, the person that proves everybody wrong. So, tell me a little bit. I am sure your book has something to do with that, and it's interesting to me too that there's so many entrepreneurs that are finding power in this medicine too, and other psychedelic experiences. And I'm doing another episode with someone tomorrow, that's similar. What's this book about, and what is it called?
The book is called 12 Laws of the Jungle: How to Become a Lethal Entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And it really it really distills the 12 principles of entrepreneurship that I've learned in the past 13 years of entrepreneurship. And, I've already told the story here of the evolution of that from a one-man show to, the organization we're running now, which is complex and successful. Um, and it was set in the context of the COVID pandemic. So what happened was, like, I got to Costa Rica in 2017. We built Soltara quickly under the gun, just crazy startup pressure, low capitalization. So like bootstrapping everything, trying to like do a million things at the same time. Keeping people motivated for like, less than they should be getting paid. And we opened in 2018. And for the first like year minimum, like every just this, it takes a while to build a brand and build a business. And sales and expenses were not always on par.
Yeah.
So but finally we got to a place where like we had made it. And this was in like early 2020. Had been open for about 18 months. We were in the black. We were making payroll every month. We were getting a lot of like mainstream publicity, and the influencers were coming down, and it looked like we were good. Now we were going to make it, right? Like we had hit the plateau. And then right away, boom, COVID comes. Government shut the borders. Whole world is closed down. We've got a whole bunch of people asking for their money back. I've got 8 employees stranded in Costa Rica because they'd closed the borders. They wouldn't let anyone leave. And it's like, holy shit, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
So this kind of tells the story of how I applied all of these 12 principles of entrepreneurship in the life or death context of the COVID lockdowns, and how we got out of the COVID lockdowns and actually became much stronger on the other side.
Yeah.
And I use it also, I use a lot of, because of my experience in the Amazon jungle, we kind of put this lens on it, that like, everything has a reference to something in the jungle. It's like 12 laws of the jungle. It's kind of like you are guiding your tribe through a treacherous jungle to get to a certain destination. And that's kind of a metaphor for for how you have to run a business. You have to maintain your rations, your budgeting. You have to be able to hunt and kill what you need to keep the village alive.
Right.
You have to keep your village motivated. Like you have to be frugal. You have to master your resources. You have to prepare for like snake bites and accidents and potentially a winter kind of thing. So things like that.
Pandemic.
What's that?
Prepared for a pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's an adventurous book, and it's got lots of great cameo appearances by different entrepreneurs that helped me get through the COVID pandemic with their content. It's got a foreword written by Patrick Bet-David of Valuetainment, one of the top entrepreneurial content producers in the world, legendary entrepreneur. And yeah, I think it's helpful for anybody, whether you're into entrepreneurship, whether you're getting started in entrepreneurship, whether you want to get started in entrepreneurship, or just in general with your life path and your objectives, and just becoming more effective and more successful in anything you do. I think it's a highly valuable book.
Wonderful. I love the metaphor to the tribal structure. And I think that's something that actually really lacks in society today, is like our ancestral roots. I notice since post pandemic, a lot of people are really turning back to that and seeking that more ancient wisdom. So it sounds like you're actually applying that into your business venture and your life venture. That's great. Now, if there, I want to ask you, if is there anything that you would tell someone that perhaps is like on the precipice of, they're working this 9 to 5 and they're miserable and they feel stagnant, and you know, something that they've found an inspiration from hearing you, or have been pondering this, like, what would you say to somebody that's ready to start a new venture, or to take that risk, to take that leap?
Good question. Law one of the book is the jungle doesn't care.
Mm,
That's the first thing you need to understand before you venture out into the world of business. The jungle doesn't care. The subtitle is the market doesn't care if you live. The jungle doesn't care if you live or die. Neither does the market.
mm,
So, I guess depending on the type of business, I think one of the most important things that a prospective entrepreneur can do is really find a way to first put themselves to the test in something else, some kind of proxy. Like for me it was the ayahuasca experiences, that I would have these crazy intense ayahuasca experiences, and that was helping to toughen my mind up, because when you're in some of those experiences, it's like it's so uncomfortable and painful and scary
yeah,
that you want it to end, but it doesn't end.
yeah,
Like, you have to just figure out a way to deal with that until the ayahuasca decides it's done kicking your ass,
right.
right? So it's a mental strengthening tool, and I've found that that has functionally happened so many times in the startup phase of business, when things are painful, when you're afraid, when you're stressed, when things aren't going your way, when you don't know what to do, but you can't stop, like you can't quit, you can't walk away.
Right.
um you have to stay the course, and so you just have to learn how to deal with pain, solve problems under pressure, solve problems under pain. um and I think that I call it the rite of passage in the book.
Mm,
I think that, the first thing a prospective entrepreneur should do is find something to really go put themselves to the test, to test
mm,
their will, to test their pain tolerance, to test their commitment level to get to an objective, um, through like a gauntlet of challenges.
mm.
And if they get through that and they like that, if they like how they feel after doing that, then you can do business.
Yeah, I hear that. So some level of comfortability in discomfort.
Absolutely, yeah. Become comfortable with discomfort. I
Right.
could I could have summed it all up in one sentence.
I think you found a more beautiful and poetic way to say it. Well, man, this has been incredible and really inspiring to me. And yeah, I can't wait to see how your path continues to unfold. And I'm honored to be here with you and to uh, be promoting this new book of yours. Where will people be able to find it?
Everywhere. Amazon, of course, is the easy way to, but it'll be in any book distribution location on Tuesday. And the audiobook is also in the works. So, we have the print and electronic copies coming out on Tuesday. So there's a hardcover, there's a paperback, and there is a ebook Kindle version.
Cool.
And in about 6 weeks, I think 5 or 6 weeks, there will be a audiobook on Audible as well.
Nice. I've got some credits on Audible, and now I have the manuscript. Your people sent me the manuscript, so I'll follow along on, and I'm excited to read it, man. And
Right on. Thank you, Garrett. I appreciate the chance to speak with you today.
yeah, absolutely. I'll plug Soltara, your social media, and anything that I can find about you in the description. Is there anything that you want to plug in particular?
Um, I mean, yeah, we've got Soltara, we've got the book, we've got the band. Um, I mean, all that, if people are interested in connecting, I think probably the primary hub for me right now is Instagram,
Okay.
Daniel C. Cleland.
Okay.
And, then we have the link tree there that goes to everything else. So,
Rad.
um, yeah,
What's the
thank
name
you
of the
very
band?
much for listening.
What's the name of the band?
Savage Existence.
Savage Existence.
Yeah.
Cool. All
It's not a
right.
band, it's a lifestyle, bro.
All right. I hear that. Cool. All right, Daniel Cleland, everyone. If everyone could please like, review, and subscribe to the podcast and hit that share button, we would both appreciate that greatly. Bye.